Welcome to Bonehead Weekly. We were just
We left
talking,
good stuff on the cutting floor there.
yeah, we were just talking about James's. Dude, look at this. If you're on YouTube, I am going so gray. And I am
How
talking about,
gray are you going, sir?
I'm, I don't know, how gray do you want to go? But
How
the thing
blue can you
is,
get?
it's the beard. I mean, my hair is a little in spots, but what?
No, it won't. I mean, and obviously I don't have face wear and several different reasons for that. But no, mine is, dude. If it's any length at all, that's why don't let it get too long, because it's right here is solid white. Like mine's patchy. Yours at least is a little bit blended throughout. Mine right here
Yeah, it's kind of blended, yeah.
is solid white. Over here is fine, and it just looks. I'm a Dalmatian. On a good day, I'm a Dalmatian. It's bad. It's bad.
And
I don't
and
do it.
and there's women who have told me that no, they like the first of all that dad bod thing. That's bullshit. It's just thing middle-aged women say to middle-aged old or I'm not middle-aged. Who's going to live to be 116? It's not me. I'm on the other side. It's something they say to older men. And then the other thing about gray and being distinguished, that's just they make that up for
It
us,
it
don't they?
depends. It depends. And I
I
actually
do
had
think
this.
I'm better looking now than I was 20 years ago.
I had this conversation with somebody, it's people that I work with, because if you work in education, it tends to be female dominated, and they made that comment. They're
I
like,
have
"Well,
noticed.
yeah. Well, the thing about that is that they said it depends on how you gray. If you salt and pepper, you're okay.
Yeah.
For some people
Is this
that
called
works
salt
better.
and pepper then?
Yeah, yeah, where it's not all in one, where it's kind of
Yeah.
mixed. Yeah,
So I'm
yeah,
just
salt
going
and
salt
pepper.
and pepper. Yeah.
But they said what you don't want is patchy. And I said, so far up here, I'm
Like
not
the
patchy.
skunk look,
Yeah, yeah, you don't want that. You want
look.
salt and pepper. It looks distinguished. It gives you, and they said that's the one, as they themselves said, as people have sometimes said, that is the one area of aging that works well for men. Is that there are enough people who think the salt and pepper looks more distinguished, whereas it doesn't work for women.
No, no. Well, and there's a late Martin Mull had the best quote. The late great actor, comedian, and artist, a beautiful artist. Martin Mull said, "When men grow older, they look like Sean Connery, and when women grow older, they look like Sean Connery." It's very
Okay.
sexist and awful, but it was a comedian, and it still makes me laugh.
Well, and I mean,
And
of
there's
all
there's a
all
lot of
people,
there's a lot of truth to it.
but all people to age into, Sean Connery's not a bad way to go. I don't care who you are.
No, I agree. I agree. I don't know that I'd give up my hair for it, but yeah, we're not talking about the topic. If you all haven't noticed, we're missing someone. Well,
Well,
someone's
I
not present.
think I think in all fairness, though, we this gives us a chance to let people peek behind the curtain. You'll notice that this show won't run as long. If you watched our show for a while, you know when Chad's here, he just talks and talks and talks. We can't get anything done. He's always bringing up weird topics and taking us down side trail. This won't be that type of episode. He's not here. He's not here to be a distraction.
No, it's true. He's on the road from Iowa
I
or
don't know
coming
wherever the
back from
Marxist
Iowa.
gathering was. I don't something
Yeah,
about Marxism.
yeah. I don't. Now, how's that different from Bolsheviks?
I don't know. It just if he goes off on one more, telling me I need to read more Ayn Rand, and I'm like, no, you need to read
Oh,
more L. Ron Hubbard. And then
I
we
I
just get
don't
that
give a
old fight,
shit who shrugged, Chad.
that old L. Ron Hubbard versus Ayn Rand fight that Chad and I always have. None of that, by the way, is valid. Chad can't read.
He can't. He loves history, but doomed to repeat it because he can't read about it. It's damnedest thing. Loves his history. So tonight's topic was
Right, Chad?
chosen by Chad. Sorry, folks. We've missed
Oh,
some. We James and I were talking before we got on here, and we've missed several different episodes. It is called Weekly. We understand that it's called Bonehead. Thank you, Mick Strawn, out there right now, who's screaming at the thing, but at his radio in his car or wherever he listens to his least favorite podcasts. But it's been a bit
he loves
of
that agrarian report. Always with that agrarian report. What's
for
corn up to, Mick?
I'd say about this high.
This time of year, I
About
wouldn't be
this,
worried if it's that
I
high.
know. Well, my corn's only about like this, but
Yeah.
just like my well, nothing grows in the shade. I just told that joke to someone else earlier. So, what I was saying was is that actually I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, yeah, it's been a bitch getting all three of us. It's actually been a bitch getting you two. One of you's always got something going on.
Man, it's with that. I've had some family stuff going on, not with my immediate family. Everybody's okay in my immediate family. Well, they're not okay. They're weird as the day is long. I mean, they're just odd people. Anyway,
If your
but
sister's still smoking, and I'm not
um,
talking about cigarettes.
I mean,
Wow. If she
I
didn't
wouldn't.
have your face, she wouldn't be as attractive.
Well, it'd be great if you give me back my face. This putty one's not going to last.
It's
Anyway,
faith. It's faith. It's clean.
but yeah, no, I mean, just it's and then we all, as we've talked before on the show, we all work in academics,
We
and
do.
man, what people don't understand is, and I tell my students all the time because when I set up my courses, I always leave breaks at the end of May and beginning of June because I'm like, I know better. I know when people are like, oh, you're out, school's out, so you must have it easy. No, if you work in student affairs, or really most anywhere in higher education, the end of May and the beginning of June is when they beat you to death. That's when you do your recruitment. That's when you're doing all this stuff. That's when
That's
you're
when you're
doing all the
preparing
year
for the
end stuff.
outcoming freshman coming
Yeah,
in. It's
I told people several times, give me a random day in September over the end of May anytime, anytime.
uh
Anyway,
it has been busy at work. But like we were saying, so we're sorry, and we've missed some episodes, and it's just been because of scheduling. Now,
it's the
once again,
best
Chad
way.
can,
I really appreciate the fact, and I hope he does, that you're using that as an excuse to cover up for Chad's massive Quaalude issues.
yeah,
I don't even know where you find them.
I didn't. He's for a guy who can't read, he's a hell of a chemist.
I mean, I give him credit. I know he's doing it just because he wants to be retro. Because I mean, Quaaludes isn't big as they once were. I don't think.
Well,
I
it's just
wouldn't know.
because they
I
don't make
myself,
them anymore. No, well, we wouldn't take any.
no, no,
It doesn't mix well with heroin.
no. Well, and as I always tell
I mean,
people,
I've been told that I would never chase that dragon.
now, well, and it's. I think we can all say without Chad being here that, I wouldn't have met Chad if I wasn't doing, my work handing out Bibles to the less fortunate, where I met
Gideon
him
Bibles.
under that underpass. Tried
You
to.
have you have always been a lying sack of shit when it comes to
I'm
that.
Well, Joe, let me once again give this chance. See, Joe, the problem with Chad is he's got the pill for he's got his back pill. He's got his pill for his headaches. He's got his pill for his moods. But you know what he really needs, Joe?
I know exactly what he needs, but I want you to say it.
He needs the Goss pill.
That's exactly what he needs is a gospel. I tell you, James, it's been a long time since you've went off on a good Church of Plum Reckoning sermon. And
I
I
was
think
thinking
it's
about that the
coming.
other.
I was
I
thinking it's coming. I think we should
I
do
was
that live on stage. And if we ever get a chance to do that again, I think that's how we should open up. What's the next big thing we do? Scarefest?
scarecrows. I would
I think
think, yeah.
Scarefest is going to be huge. And I actually am overall, well, it doesn't matter. I shouldn't just say it, but I actually think I'm the one who could make that. I don't even have to ask anymore.
You think maybe on Sunday we should just do Bonehead presents the Church of Plum Record, and we can all do different religious. Um,
I think it's a one way
I
to
think
go.
Chad needs to develop a character that would be like the preacher for the Cenobites. I think that would work. Maybe we can get Doug
The
Bradley involved.
Ceno bites?
Cenobites. Yeah, see the I don't know where that came from.
I
I
don't know
apologize.
where it came from either. Ceno bites.
Cenobites. Doesn't that sound like a snack food?
It
Man,
does.
I'd like some of
I
them
love
Cenobites.
some Ceno bites.
Well, I picture him a
These are
little cinnamon,
baked.
little cream cheese, but yeah, baked, very nice.
Mm.
Little crunch to him though, not like a cinnamon roll.
Oh,
Cenobites would have to be a little crunch to them, I think.
God, I love a good cinnamon roll. Anyway, should we talk about the
These
topic?
flavors will be.
This is where I will give Chad credit if he ever listens to this, and God knows he won't. This is where Chad was. You think we should talk about the topic? I'm angry.
I don't know, but these Cenobites, their flavors will be legendary even in hell. Anyway, so
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I think
anyway, so yes, topic.
Doug Bradley will be at Scarefest this year. Let's pitch him the idea.
Oh my God. I would actually love that. Just, I don't know if he's willing to get in costume again, but just him carrying a tray of Cenobites around.
Yeah,
I think there's money to be made
I
there.
think there is too.
The topic this week, which was going to be, or is going to be probably a briefer topic, but Mark Maron announced that he's quote unquote retiring the WTF, the podcast.
Yeah,
I think it's 16 years. Is that right? 16 years.
sure.
And
I don't know.
they asked him why he's retiring it, and I appreciate his response. Well, we do 2 episodes a week, and 16 years of that, I'm tired of doing it. He worded it much better than that.
Well, I
But I
don't
mean,
know
that's
that
what it
that's a.
boils down.
I don't know that that would be wrong though. We've been doing this 8 years next month.
Yeah.
8 years into this month, actually.
Yeah, that means we
Yeah,
have to
no,
make it
no,
to
next month.
17. We have to make it to 17 years to beat Mark Maron. Be a cold day in hell before I lose to Mark Maron.
Yeah, and if only we had a friend who went to see him and said, "Hey, you guys want to go?" And then you ask about it later, goes, "I totally invited you." Hmm, that's a dig at somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Could be worse. It's not like you had a friend that had tickets to Elton John and Billy Joel and didn't go and could have gave those to you, but I'm sure that wouldn't have happened
Yeah,
either.
that happened to me as well. Thank you for bringing it back up. And who did that to me? Shit.
I don't know. Maybe somebody
So
probably in the height of a quote.
here, back to your point of retiring, and that we're going to go with Chad's retiring, and we just kind of missed that boat because we're talking about those delicious Ceno bites. But
Ain't
back
gonna
to
live
what
that one down easy.
why do we have such a hard time with entertainers retiring? I mean, usually they don't. They get retired, right? The
Well,
audience doesn't show up, yada, yada, yada. They kind of go off fucking security. But we always say, oh my God, why did you quit? Why did you move on? And I always think, you have done jobs. I'm not saying you, but all of us, all you people out there listening, you have done jobs you didn't last 6 weeks. You've done jobs you 5 years. You're sitting in a job right now. Maybe I'm just projecting that you're ready to retire from at this moment.
yeah.
Makes
Well,
them any different.
and I was gonna say the other retirement that was announced that actually, I mean, Mark Maron, Mark Maron's going to keep on doing comedy. He's going to keep on doing other
Yeah,
stuff. He's
he's
not
not going. He's
disappearing.
not. Yeah, he's just not
He's
doing
just
podcasting.
retiring from the podcast. But the other retirement that was announced this week, which was the other reason I'm like, let's talk about it. That'd be a good, quick episode topic, is Barrett Hanson, more known to other people as Dr. Demento,
Yeah.
announced that he's retiring. And I follow his official site online and everything. And I must admit, I found out not from his original announcement, which I missed in all the scrolling, but somebody shared it and went, "Oh my God, I can't believe he's retiring. How could he do this to us? We need that. We need. He's more important now
Yes.
than he's ever been." But then I stopped and I'm like, the dude's 85 years old.
When do you take a break?
He slowed down a little bit, and people criticize, not criticize. It's because he's so loved. I mean, if you, I grew up with Dr. Demento. I started listening when I was
Lots
about
of people
11
grow.
years old.
They were talking about it earlier today, and I've been doing this every week of taking different shots. I'm so sorry, and I know, but I keep doing different shots because I keep thinking, when is this all going to end? I probably should document some. I guess it is all documented. I don't know why I take a screenshot of it, but yeah, when do you get to pause?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's one of those things that, like, I'll stick with Dr. Demento as an example for a minute, but Dr. Demento plays novelty records, and to his credit, by the way, if you don't know anything about Dr. Demento, that man is brilliant, and I mean brilliant as in an academic sense. He has I believe, a master's degree in ethnomusicology or ethno music. I don't know the
That's
exact
not a
term,
thing.
but it basically is the cultural study of music.
Excuse me.
He started collecting 78 records, the old school records.
Mm-hmm.
You punk kids with your 45s. Uh, but
Yeah.
collecting 78s when he was 12 years old. He's 85. His library is enormous. All of that being said, outside, I don't want to say outside, there's still several people making novelty albums. Don't get me wrong. Weird Al's the most famous one. Luke Ski, you have the
But who
entire
gave
Filth.
Weird Al his start?
Yeah, it's Dr. Demento. That's why
I
Dr.
just wanted you to
Demento,
drop. I just was
yeah,
going to. I mean,
Dr.
I should.
Demento pops up in a lot of his music videos because
Yeah,
stick with the if you get to the Kentucky Derby, stick with the horse that brought you.
yeah, of course.
And so, and it's one of those things that yeah, I mean, he's 85, and with Mark Maron, how many? I mean, we do a podcast, and I don't I if you're listening to us, thank you for listening, but could you tell more people because we don't have Mark Maron numbers?
No, God, never have. I
No.
don't know if we ever. I'd be happy with what 5%.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't dream of being Joe Rogan. I don't even dream of being Mark Maron, right? I my dream is that
Definitely more Marin than Rogan, though.
yeah, well, actually, I mean, in all fairness, if this ever gets monetized, again, I'll go with whatever horse brought me to the Derby.
Yeah,
Um, but no, I say that somewhat jokingly, but at what point is enough enough as well? I mean, at what point
right.
Mark Maron has got to interview within reason. I mean, for the world that he's interested in interviewing, it seems like he got a lot of the big names.
Well, I think he got probably almost everyone he ever wanted.
Yeah. And at what point do you say, okay, it's not going to get better than this?
I asked myself the same question. I asked it about this because I don't know. We didn't. We all agreed to do 100, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm in a
Well,
hundred good ones, so I'm in it for the.
well, we've got a long way to go. But we all agreed to do 100.
Yeah.
One of us didn't make it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
past that, we never really had another conversation about how much longer we were going to do it. And I think when day does it end? It comes to my mind. And I'm sorry, I'm project once again. I know I'm projecting, but this is on my mind a lot the last couple of years for lots of personal reasons. And James knows about some of them. But everything's, to quote Stephen King, everything's eventual, like the book, and everything ends. And
Yeah.
I, I often think about, and I've tried to do better with my side gig of eventually. I don't want to retire from that, but eventually I'm going to be too gray, back to the gray. And who wants that on stage? I
Well,
understand that. Uh,
yeah.
so when does it end? So do you end it? Everyone wants to go out on their own terms, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And
Yeah.
because nothing lasts forever, how do you pick? How do you go out? Do you even get the chance to do it? So back to some of these people, I kind of understand. And James, finish your point because I want to give an example of what I'm talking about.
Well, and I guess I was going much the same way you're going. I think about um retirement 'cause I can't imagine retiring from work. And I say that because I just don't
Well, I can't imagine
know.
not doing something. I agree with you
Yeah.
there. But
Yeah.
I
I mean,
can imagine a scenario where I get to be more choosy about what it is I'm doing.
yeah. And I think that's one of the things that, I mean, what I do like about my professional work, especially the way that I've leaned into certain parts of it, is, especially with the step that I just made, you get to create.
Yeah.
And creating is never boring to me. The problem is once I get it created, I don't know how excited I'll be, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. As long as I can do something, as long as it's new. And I think that becomes the reason for retirement as well, right? I never want to be in a position where I honestly feel, and this is, again, this is more personal, I guess, of a story. I think about the difference between me and my father, and I loved my father. Um, uh, but I mean, Dad loved routine at work. He wanted to make the same part, do it the same way. It, I know that it was much more complex than this. He worked in, tool and
Hmm.
die for a while and stuff like this. But he wanted to go to that machine, hit that button, make that part, do it over and over and over again because for him that was comforting. It was I know what I'm going to do today because that's what I did yesterday, which is what I'll do tomorrow in the workplace.
Yeah.
And he only took jobs that moved him up for the money. I asked him once if what out of all the jobs he had, what his ideal job was, and he was like pumping gas when it was full service, because your worst case scenario is you didn't pay enough attention. You gave them too much gas, and you could only charge them for what they agreed to pay.
That happened to me once. I did it as a kid. I did it as a young man too. I did it for my dad, and I gave somebody a couple dollars too much. I did it once or twice because you just
Yep.
you're right, lose track. And that
Yep.
was a time when people would roll up and say, "Can I get $3?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I mean,
Not
and
even
so,
five, like three.
yep. Yeah. Of course, gas used to be, 76 cents a gallon,
Yeah,
and little different times in that way too.
that's
But
slightly.
But I mean, and so my father's worldview was give me something that's repetitive. I get used to it and it makes my life easy. Whereas I don't, man, I can't imagine. I don't even teach the same class the same way twice. I get
No,
bored.
I get
If I
bored
get
too.
bored, I can't do it. And if I'm bored, the students are going to be bored.
Yeah.
Because God, I can talk. Uh, but and so I think that's what's interesting too is, you know, um, inside the actor studio, jumping a little bit here, but with reason, inside the actor studio worked to have those common questions at the end that James Lipton always asked, because the rest of the show was always different.
You're right.
You had your closing that was the same, but you had the rest that was different. I think that's what you have to do. And I think once you realize, oh man, this is starting to, if we ever get to where we're interviewing people, I'm like, wait a second, that's exactly what, William Malone said.
Right.
If it starts to run together and all starts to become the same, I may feel differently. But so yeah, I think that's it. I think do it as long as it's interesting and fun for you to do it.
Well,
If
I
they're
don't know that
paying
I
you to do
always,
it, even the better.
and I don't know that I always find our topics always as interesting. Some of those. I know our audience doesn't always. I get feedback from some of them.
Yeah.
But I'm always afraid of like, well, if I end it now, I won't get to talk to X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
And we've been so lucky with some of the interviews that we've got. But
Well,
back to my point is you want to pick some of these celebrities you want, I would imagine, because I want this and you want this, you want to pick the way you exit. So if just, and it's not because he's been on the news because of his tragic death, he and his wife, but Gene Hackman hadn't acted in the last past decade. And Jack Nicholson hasn't really done anything in over a decade. And part of you is like those sons of bitches are so talented. Imagine the movies they could have made in the last 10, 13 years. I mean, Gene Hackman's last movie is like Welcome to Mooseport with Ray Romano.
mhm.
It's not necessarily the highest thing, but what it's extremely selfish of us to want them to do that. Maybe he wrote his books the last decade of his life, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
His
He's an
histories.
author. He
Yeah.
he
Yep.
wrote mysteries.
Mhm.
And that's what made him happy, probably. And that's a good thing. Why am I so selfish of making him do that? I don't know what Jack Nicholson's doing. That one picture of him smoking a cigarette and eating a sandwich, living his best life and floating out there in all those memes and gifs. I don't think he does that every day, but who am I to say, why don't you go out there and make more movies? That's what I want.
Well, and oddly enough,
But shouldn't he get to enjoy some of that too? I'm
well,
sure. I hope he's got some cash.
and Seinfeld, Jerry Seinfeld, not the show Seinfeld, but
Yeah.
Jerry Seinfeld, still tours with comedy shows and stuff. And
Because
it
he's a
was
comedian.
it was about 5 or 6 years after the show
He
ended.
didn't know how to do anything else.
Yeah. And he has a plan. Actually, he already has it booked for if because his mother lived to be 105 and was able-bodied and mentally aware until
Uh-huh.
she was 100. He already has on his 100th birthday, assuming he's going to take after his mother, he has a venue booked. He talked about it. It's in Vegas. He talked about it. But anyway, and a lot of people he talks about doing the show in a stand-up, and he did a Q&A after when I saw him at Eastern Kentucky University, I think is where I saw him. David Mullins, a good friend of mine. And it's been some time ago. But he brought up the show, and people were like, "Oh, when are you going to be back on TV? When are you going to do another sitcom?" And he told this story, and I think it leads to exactly what you're saying. He goes, "Okay, um, let me put this in a framework that you understand. For a long time, I didn't have kids. I was tied up in my bachelorism, and I would say, I don't know why people want to have kids. Now I have kids." And people are like, now I look at and say, oh, obviously I'm glad to have kids. And he said, my understanding is both of those are the right answer. He said, I can't imagine having kids when I was doing that. I can't imagine not having kids now. And he said, but every time that question comes up, I think about this because he goes, I get offers, and I was like, who wouldn't offer,
Right.
one of the biggest sitcoms of all time, another shot. And he said, I get offers, but he said, I get up in the morning, have my bowl of Cheerios, eat with my kids, and they want to watch Sesame Street. And I watched Sesame Street with my kids, obviously some time ago. And he goes, and Elmo comes out, and I'm just going to quote Jerry Seinfeld here, bops his red furry ass around.
Yes.
And he goes, and we have a good time. We watch Elmo, time with my kids. And then he goes, but he goes, I realized watching Elmo that I don't want to be Elmo anymore. I don't want to go out and at week after week have to show up, have to film. He goes, I tour when I want to. I have time with my family when I want to. And I think that makes sense to me because I always tell people if I won the lottery or if I wrote, it's not going to happen, but if I wrote a really successful book academically or otherwise, I don't know if I'd be able to just disappear. Even if I had the money, I think I'd get bored. I mean, I'd try for a while. Don't get me wrong. Like, we'll see what happens. But but I think what happens is you get that freedom.
Yeah.
Success, good, real success gives you the freedom to go, you know what? I'm not taking that project.
Yep.
I'm going to take some time off.
Yep.
I'm going to, and I think that is a soft retirement, which I understand. And I think that's the other thing with like Mark Maron. Hypothetically, Mark Maron has second guesses or changes his mind or does anything 3 years from now, he can bring it right back. He's still Mark Maron.
Yep. I completely agree with you. And as much as I'd like to listen to WTF, and we're not, this isn't just, like you said, this is just an example, and this is going to be one of our shorter episodes because Chad's not on here. But just for retirement, I don't know why, but we do it, and I do it. We just expect some of these people to keep going till they drop, and some of them do. Some of them do.
Yeah.
There's several different not Charles Dance, but oh gosh, great character actor from the Muppet movie. He was on Evening Shade. Oh,
Oh, yeah, I know who you're
It's
talking
not
about.
Charles Napier. Oh my God, I named everybody who's dead. But he wanted to go on stage. Some people do, and I get that too. I get both viewpoints. I
Yeah.
love this so much. I don't know what else I'd do. Just let me go do it till I can't, till I'm dead. Then I also get, I'm tired. I'd like to do something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and they were talking about, just and I think my mind immediately goes to science fiction, right? Like Leonard Nimoy talking about, agreeing to do Spock again. Partially, I mean, in his mind, part of it was, is the makeup technology better? Do I have to be in a chair for 4 hours to get ready to do this role?
Right.
Oh, wait, you got it down to an hour and a half? Yeah, I'll do it. I mean, that wasn't his only thinking, obviously. But I mean, I think that's the other side of it is what does it take for you to inhabit that role or that stage or that because you were talking about that, and I immediately thought, I mean, Don Rickles was doing stuff till literally
Till he
he
died.
died. He
Yeah.
died.
Yeah.
I think he actually still had shows booked when he died, to be
I'm
honest.
sure he did.
Um, and it was that's who Don Rickles was, and I think that's one of the things. So I think it's where you get your energy from, right? I had this conversation earlier with my son, um, about because he's doing a lot of sports stuff now, and I played baseball poorly briefly. But I'm trying to be supportive, and he's showing forward momentum, and I'm proud of him for doing it. But I made that comment. I'm like, you've got to understand that you've got to do what you pull energy from. You're not pulling energy
Have
from it.
to.
If you don't care about it, it's going to show. It's the reason why I am absolutely 100%. And the example they gave him was my work. I said, I teach the history of education. If I don't care about it, nobody's going to care about it. If I go into that classroom and be like, all right, let's talk about the history of education, nobody's going to care because I know that at least 70% of the students view it as the most esoteric course they'll have to take. I doubt in my mind. I know that because I was that way. I don't know what about that bug bit me that turned me into what I am now, but it took a while. I had good professors who made me realize, oh yeah, I actually have questions about that. I try to do the same thing, but if you're not interested in it, it
There's
shows.
nothing. There's just nothing you can
And I
do.
think, and this take this as a compliment. I hope you take it as a compliment. Or don't. Screw you. Uh, but but I
Who,
think
me?
that's what. Yeah, I think that's why your longevity at Scarefest. You can still amp up a crowd and do crowd work before a panel member before the panel gets out there. You get people talking. You get people interacting. And to be honest, we've talked about this before. Conventions are 90% about seeing other fans.
Yeah. Thank
The,
you.
you get the tickets. You get in the door. You get people in the door with guests. I know that, but man, once you're there, and I even still do that. We even still do it. We took photos when all three of us were with people in costumes.
We took photo. Yeah, of
Because
course.
they're
Yeah.
awesome costumes, and you look around and be like, man, somebody built, the alien queen out of cardboard and foam, and it looks awesome.
It
And
does.
then they have the intestinal fortitude, as my father would say, to walk around a con floor, a hot, crowded con
I won't
floor.
do it. I don't even this past March, I
No.
don't know if I said this out loud, was the first time I went on Lexington Comic Con's floor on a Saturday. Now, and I'm not talking about walking by it. I do that, and you know this about me. I actually went on the floor on a Saturday. I had a little more time, and quite frankly, a friend of mine I wanted to see who has some health issues also motivated me. I won't even walk on the floor on Saturday, James, much less walk around and all that. And I know I sound awful saying that I won't, but other walk around with all that hot ass shit, just carrying it around on you. But yes, thank you. You're being very kind to me. You actually gave me one of my favorite compliments
Well,
ever.
but
Top five. You did. I don't know if you
but I
remember. You were just like, I don't know, dude. You're good with the crowd.
yeah, it
It's
is
a very
night and
simplistic
day when you
compliment.
see somebody that's not though, and we talked about this before off the air, and I'm probably on the air too. When you go to a con and you can tell somebody's there because sometimes just because they're getting paid to do it. I think sometimes because I think about some of the early Star Trek convention and science conventions I went to, you could tell when it was somebody that actually cared about the guests, cared about the talent, cared about the fans, cared about, and that's very different than somebody that gets up there and goes, "Our next guest presenter is," and they're reading off a note card.
Yeah, I've
And by the
watched
way,
it all.
I'm a big believer in note cards too. But when you're like, and he was in Lost in Space, which ran for, the first convention I went to, that's how it was ran. And I remember going, dude, I'm a geek and I understand that. But don't talk down to, like, don't act like you're doing us a favor introducing people that we know because we came here to see them.
Yeah, I've
We
seen.
don't know you. We
Yeah,
know them.
I've
And
seen
so
that
yeah,
version.
I think when it's bad. And so yeah, I think going back to the topic of retirement, I think, man, I'm gonna miss I tell people it's the same thing they always say about Harlan Ellison. I miss the concept of them being out there doing what they're doing.
I agree. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
going to
and
miss Dr. Demento.
because they're part of your family.
Yeah. And
You don't
uh,
know them, but
no.
you spent a lot of intimate time with them. If it's a movie star, if it's a TV star, they've been in your home. You have watched them so many hours.
And it's a moment of comfort, right? I think
Yes,
that's
of
the other
course.
part about it is because I had this conversation.
Enjoy.
Speaking of retirement, the voice actress who did Millhouse retired from The Simpsons.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that Trace McNeil or did she pass away? I can't remember which one's
I
which.
I can't remember.
I can't
But
remember
I
either.
mean, like,
I
so
know.
every blue moon, Millhouse is still going to pop up, and they're either going to have somebody else that can do impersonation, or she'll do, yeah, kind of like they do Maud
Yeah,
Flanders.
Mod Flan.
Um, but I was just sitting there, and I was like, oh man, I can't believe. Why would you ever? And then I stopped and went 36 years.
36 years, but I will say this about that one particular thing. That's not a terribly difficult job, I would imagine.
Well, no, but I also think like in the case of Maud Flanders, she was traveling because she did work in New York. She is where she was stationed,
Hmm.
or maybe it was California. And anyway, she had to fly out every time they did voice work, and she got tired of flying,
Yeah.
which I understand. But I think I agree. It doesn't sound overly terrible, though. I did watch Phineas and Ferb is getting ready to come back, and I'm blanking on her first name, but her last name's Stoner. She does the voice of Isabel on Phineas and Ferb, and the new season's coming out. And she filmed herself going back to the studio to film it for the first time. And she made the comment, when I first started filming, I was 12. I don't think she was actually 12, but she was
Mm.
young. And she goes, I'm now doing this 15 years later. And it was just her doing vocal warm ups in her car so she could hit those same pitches. And so it would be smooth
Yeah.
all those years later. And I was like, yeah, I can't. I mean, uh, but I agree that speaking of retirements, when The Simpsons retire, when it finally goes off the air,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do, man. I really don't.
I don't either, and I haven't watched it in the last 4 or 5 seasons.
See, I've never stopped.
Since
It
I
has
cut
been.
cable, I haven't watched it.
See, I do. I've got Disney Plus, so I just when it
I
pops
have
up
Disney
there.
Plus too, but I just
Um,
DVR'd it every week and then I could watch it. And then the kid got into it a few months ago and we kind of started from the beginning. And then I forget just how uh it it's still especially the first few seasons are still like, oh, that's a lot for me to just show my 7-year-old, even though I just the other night it was like, well, I know you want to watch Alien versus Alien or Predator, but oh, AVP is only PG-13.
yep.
That was my excuse. We watched it. It's like, well, it's not R. There's not a ton of blood. So I don't, I mean, yeah, I'm with you.
Well, once again, let me channel my father. He needs to know if an alien from outer space stabs his wombinator into him, that he's going to have a chest burster.
Luminator. Yeah.
Wombinator. I couldn't come up with the term. I
No,
just went
that's a good
wombinator.
one. I like it. No, and it's, yeah, it's,
Wombinator, TM and copyright Bonehead LLC.
I totally agree with you though. I don't know what to do and don't know where it's going and it all kind of changes and we're getting older.
Yeah, well, and I think that's it. And it makes me think
People
about,
who have been on the show are now dead.
yeah. Well, and I think about Loretta Swit died, who wasn't on our show. She
Yeah.
never did our show. We can't prove that's why she
Bitch.
died. We can't prove that's why she died, but we can't disprove it either.
No.
No, but at the same time, I was thinking about that because I think about how my dad and several people, and part of it was all in syndication, and if you didn't have cable, that's what you watched was whatever was on. But that feeling of people have toward MASH or Cheers, George Wendt passed away. Cheers, all these things of, and I go back and I watch them and I enjoy them, but I think it's one of those things that it's what gave you the comfort at that time,
Yep.
and then it's gone. It's and we do live in an age. Luckily, I mean, I can remember my father sitting around. Yeah, there's a show I really like. Can't remember the name. My dad couldn't remember the name of anything, but he goes, "Yeah, I'll never see it again." And we don't live in that way now. I mean, there's still stuff that isn't, but we have. We grab a random DVD. Like I can watch the Dean Martin Variety Show.
Hmm.
That's blurry for some reason. Um, I've got 29 volumes of that on my shelf. Um, right. I mean, but
They are good. Some of them are good.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, the point being is, I think that's something that's changed too. Is that would it be the same? Are we going to be impacted the same? And I think that's the thing about Dr. Demento. One of the things that he said is, hey, as long as the website's up, episodes are streaming. You can go, and I wonder if it'll be the same thing with WTF. It won't be. Yeah, you're not going to get new ones, but you want to hear him interview Gilbert Godfrey, rest in peace. They're probably there. Probably find it still.
Yeah.
You just won't get to hear his interview with the next up and coming person, which will be Chad Jennings. Chad left us to do stand up comedy,
And that is a good way for us to end this episode.
just like Chad's stand up comedy career will end as soon as it begins.
As soon as it begins, he'd have
What's
this.
what's the deal with airline food? It's delicious. Thank you for your time.
Oh, Chad does 10 minutes on Bucky's. All right. So this has been Bonehead Weekly. Depressing. That's a good way to end it. I don't know what
Yeah, no, I mean,
yeah, yeah. All right. Dude out.